Hello and good morning, team. I am recording this video to give a quick update on what's going on the product this week. So I want to start with the update on the goals. As you know, we met last week with Kushal and Jason to review what are the key capabilities in the product needed for the team to ensure that they can quickly develop and deliver the direct mail focused campaigns. It was a good discussion, and according to that, I revised and updated my goal tree from self-serve product to ensuring that these deliverables are met, that these requirements are met and delivered by the end of the quarter. Very quick overview is that we decided two main things. One is that we want to focus on our internal team first to make sure that the campaigns that are sold either to new clients or existing clients are easily developed and quickly turned around by our internal team. This will be of course a stepping stone to enable the external teams or clients as well to do the same, but at the first factor for prioritization, we wanted to make sure that the internal team has everything that they need. As such, the decision was made to, instead of creating a specific product UI, which was the previous goal that I had, is to create a blueprint or a template that will have all the different pieces with a standard workflow for these type of campaigns, like a redirect, namely, and the 2-page landing pages, as well as all the complementary components like a direct mail dashboard, which is pre-built according to that workflow, similar how we have done it for both walk and run templates in the past. We also want to embed the UI where people can update the tracking files for mail tracking inside the client portal. We want to make sure that sent events, we have to discuss this with RF, of course, to see what's the best way to achieve this. But right now we have an issue with accurately calculating the response rate based on the real number of sent emails as opposed to export. We have to find a solution for that. And there's an infrastructure required for the Socket Labs server migration. So my third goal was the one that went through a complete overhaul based on the discussions that we had. Again, we are aligning with the needs of the quarter to make sure that we hit those revenue goals. So that's the main update. Now that I removed the product UI update from my goal tree, I revised my goal 2 to go back and focus on the steps that I need to finish the product UI or advance the product UI development that I was working on. And what I did, I added the two items that I had removed. One, the implementation of the filters for exports and records view. That's the same standard behavior filter that we will use as part of target audience selection in the workflow designer, which is necessary for the main goal of my UI development this quarter, which is designing and developing the high-level next-gen workflow builder UI. So by high level, I mean the workflow builder will focus on being able to connect the three main things, the export, action, and trigger, without necessarily at this time diving into each individual app, because those are app specific. We want to make sure that we have the high level connection between the different apps figured out. This I have put the September 30th, but it's a very aggressive goal, depending on how much I run into in terms of complexity. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the reason it is way more complex than it may seem is that it's not just the UI component of this. According to the conversation that I've had with RF number of times, the main difference between the next generation and the studio workflow designer is that in the studio we had a MAML, which was basically a big JSON object or an XML object where all the UI had to do was to basically construct and author this MAML, whereas in the next gen, there's no such a thing, and that's by design, because RF believed that MAML would actually cause more problem than it helped, for good reasons, for scalability. But what it means is that we are gonna have handle all of the export and import functionalities, like sending events, sending the CSV file for an email, for example, to send, with a server side for the workflow designer. So the workflow this time will have both a UI, which is responsible for enabling the integration between different apps, as well as allowing the user to integrate each individual app. And also, because we no longer have a JSON or a MAML object, is responsible for, in the backend, to construct the instructions required for the RF's backend to execute. So it's basically a series of individual apps, and also it is responsible for maintaining a state, because if email is deployed now, the responsibility of the UI backend is to make sure that they no longer send the same email, because the workflow is going to run. So for that reason, I think it's going to be much more complex than just the UI. And for this quarter, I'm going to focus on the first step, which is how we can connect the main components, the export, the target, the export, which is the same as target audience, the action and trigger, without going deep into all of those backend and all of those like individual apps and stuff. I have made a lot of simplifications and processes on the product itself. I don't want to show too much, but the navigation, I have removed everything basically that we are not gonna have implemented and used. So all of the things that you see here, like the users, for example, this is functioning and working, and it deletes and updates and does all the things that it needs to do. But my goal is to make sure that the parts that we are working on will be usable by an external user or internal user, so by someone who can test drive it and give us feedback. The workflow designer, of course, is the part that I'm gonna focus on this quarter. Will not fully function as I mentioned, but it still can be used by a person to test it. So there's a lot of like changes on the UI that is happening. I want to make it very simple, straightforward, modern, and polished. Hopefully having something ready by end of this year to do a very simple pre-QR redirect or a two-page landing page that we are building the blueprint imported to this eventually. Lots of great things going on. One last update is that the dashboard that we have been working on with AWS, we made a lot of good progress. I already know that we can embed the dashboard that RF has made for the real-time view here. My goal is to be able to ideally implement both of those dashboards, the AWS QuickSight dashboard as well as the real-time dashboard that we currently have. So that, again, for this quarter, the goal is to be able to embed a first version of that here, as well as working alongside with RF. Is working on a prototype of the data lakehouse as the long-term solution, as you guys know, to make sure that it meets our clients' requirements. So what we develop can be used by most of our clients. We will have the option to use the AWS for the clients who want that functionality with a paid price, and the data lakehouse will be our default solution for that. Okay, see, I'm at the 10 minutes now. I'm gonna stop here. But I think now that we have finalized finally the goals, we can focus on the execution and just make progress. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know.